All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. I am Illeagle 86 as always, and I am joined by my fantastic friends and fantastic co-hosts and all-around generally amazing people, Nerdbomber and Techtic. Say hello, guys.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, how's it going?
I said say hello. One of you said hello twice, and one of you said, hey, how's it going? I gave very explicit instructions.
I don't take orders very well. I'm a rebel.
Well, you took the orders. I'm the one that rebelled, if anything.
Yeah, you actually took the orders twice. I mean, I'm looking to crack down on this. I've let this go on long enough, so this is your last warning. And after this, I don't know what's going to happen, but you don't want to know either. Guys, I'm just kidding. We're all friends here. They can say whatever they want, and it's a free country. And it's also September. It's still September. It's the midpoint of September, in fact. Fall is coming. It's actually getting into the 40s here, Fahrenheit, for all those out-of-towners. But that's like...
It was
that's
chilly willy this morning, man. Went outside and it was nippy.
I'm very concerned because I haven't brought in my lemon tree yet.
I'll say my willy was chilly and my nippies were nippy.
I don't know if I like that. I don't think I like that
said
at all.
willy. You said willy and nippy in the same sentence. I basically had no choice.
I was just rhyming.
I'm fine with saying that on the air, but it's getting cold is my point, and it's pants weather. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but pants/sweater weather are when I am, as a person, am at my strongest and at my best feeling, like in terms of like the clothes I have, the outfits, and just a general ambiance of like fall and winter. I freaking thrive.
Are you a flannel guy?
I'm not a flannel guy, but I'm like a button down with a sweater over it guy, or like a quarter zip.
So one would call you a nerd.
I'm a nerd. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but we host a podcast where we literally just are nerds for like an hour a week. But I'm also a nerd outside of that time too, and that involves dressing up in button downs and sweaters. My girlfriend actually, since quarantine has started, has been giving me a hard time, especially back in March when it was still cold and I could wear pants and sweaters. She was like, "Why are you wearing that getup? Like you're only seeing me today. Like where you're not leaving the house." She's like a big sweatpants and like, sweatpants person.
We're on the same page, me and her, to be totally honest. I don't know if Techtic has seen me. Like there have been a couple occasions where I needed to dress up, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure I'm either in t-shirts and shorts or a hoodie and sweatpants. And that has been my wardrobe.
It's weird. It's weird when she gets dressed at this point.
I don't know if you've talked about this on the air either, but I know you're a proponent of what I think you refer to as the blanket burrito.
Oh yeah, I'm recording this and I am a blanket burrito right at this very moment.
Have you thought about getting one of those? Because they like make blankets now that are literally like, they look like tortillas. Have you considered that?
I've thought about it, but then I looked up how much they cost, and you know what? For that price, they're like $30-$40. You can get a nice Cuddle Dud, which is a nice little fleece burrito, and that will be much better.
Yeah, you're paying a premium just for the joke.
It also weirds me out how real they look.
Like you want to eat them? That's an issue for you?
Yeah.
I can get behind that. I've just seen them online. Never been like up near one, but who knows what would happen if I was near one and I was hungry. Anyways, it's fall, so hooray for that. If you're a pants and sweater person like I am, it's a great time for you. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Believe it or not, we've talked about it for going on 5 minutes now, but that's not what this episode's going to be. We're going to talk about a number of things. Of course, the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer dropped today.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, all of us here are viewers, so we're going to talk about that, talk about what we can maybe expect from Season 2, what the trailer wants us to think we can expect. We're also going to talk about, is it Ubisoft or Ubisoft? I've asked this on the podcast before and I haven't internalized it.
I've always called it Ubisoft.
Yeah, I've always called it Ubi.
So we're going to go with Ubisoft. That's the official position of the Online Warriors podcast. The Ubisoft Forward event, which premiered a number of interesting things, including some more content from Watch Dogs Legion. Immortal, I can't think of the full... Immortal Legends, what is it? Do you remember the title of this? I'm really prepared here. Phoenix Rising, I know, is the subtitle.
I think it's Immortals Phoenix Rising. I can't, nobody can really knock you for not knowing it offhand, because for the longest time it was Gods and Monsters, and then they had to change it, I believe. Wasn't it because a monster lawsuit, like Monster Energy
copywriting?
Yeah.
Right. It's Immortals Phoenix Rising, which we need to believe that it's like a Immortal isn't like a subtitle, like it's a sequel or something. I don't think it is. I think it's just a standalone game, but we'll get to that. And then of course there's news. Well, I guess the first news of a Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake. So we'll get to that gaming news, and then of course, where would we be if we didn't talk about Venus on the podcast? Venus, that planet that you've never seen, but you've heard about. Maybe you have seen it. Isn't it like super easy to look at with a telescope?
I don't think it is. We actually we did a lot of
you guys,
astronomy.
You're owners.
Yeah, we have a pretty
owners.
nice telescope, and that was not one of the planets we could see easily. I'm sure if you probably have like $1,000 telescope, but we are not that hard of an enthusiast. We have like the $200 telescope.
Well,
it's also
Venus is
based on our longitude and latitude. It's not really available at reasonable times.
I see. Yeah, astronomy is weird. I don't know anything about it. Astronomy or astrology, I know nothing about either, but we're going to talk about Venus a little bit. There's been some big extraterrestrial news. That doesn't sound right, but there's news about Venus that we'll get to. That's enough of a teaser.
Gone home.
Yeah, Techtic's going to bring back his ETs. Remember you talked about ET's parents? When was that?
Yeah,
Super
Dad
Bowl.
went out for smokes and never came back.
Yeah. Our Super Bowl post Super Bowl like commercial roundup. There was that commercial about ET, and you told you spun a yarn, I would say, is what you did about ET's parents. So we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about Venus. But first, let's roll it back to the Mandalorian Season 2 trailer. Now, this was not a long trailer. It wasn't even 2 minutes, I don't think, which these days is pretty short for a trailer, but this gave us a lot to look at, right? Most importantly, I mean, you knew you were going to see Baby Yoda, but like, it's clearly going to be very Baby Yoda centric again, which why wouldn't it be? Baby Yoda's a phenomenon. And we hear a lot of dialogue about, what's Mando going to do with this kid? And it sounds like the answer is he is going to seek out the Jedi. Now, remembering that this is post Episode 6, post Battle of Endor, there's definitely a lot of gray area in there for the show to work with in terms of what the Jedi even are at this point. We talked about on the podcast, other characters from other things. The Clone Wars, I think, the character from the Clone Wars, whose name I can't pronounce, is going to be involved, played by Rosario Dawson. We don't see her in the trailer, but we hear a lot of whispers of the Jedi, and he's going to be trying to find the Jedi. And meanwhile, everyone still wants a piece of this kid. That's the rough gist of it. But I don't know. Initial thoughts from you guys. I hit the high points plot-wise, but what enticed you, I guess, is the question I'll lead with.
I mean, I thought it looked really good. I don't know if I've been this excited about a Star Wars trailer in a while. And it kind of, I don't know if it was just, I was super excited to see more of Baby Yoda because 2020 has been a year where I need cuteness more than usual. And he was just still heckin' adorable, especially when he like noped out of that fight at the end and just like put up his little cubby thing over his floating cradle. But I did have one question. So like everything looked awesome. A lot of really cool potential for story involvement. I like the return of some existing characters we saw and the promise of a lot of cool epic battles. We saw the fight scene at the end with Mando at the end of the trailer. But I was a little confused when he didn't know or seem to understand who the Jedi were, because I thought the Jedi were pretty like well known by that point. So that was my only question mark over the entire thing, because assuming that it does take place after Episode 6, wouldn't he know who the Jedi were, at least vaguely?
So, okay, well, Techtic, do you want to take that, or do you want me to dive into that? Because I think I have an answer.
Why don't you dive into that first? Because I actually, that was one of the takes that I wanted to expand upon, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, so I think if I were to, I think your point is fairly made. Assumedly, based on, for one thing, like Harrison Ford's aging, like not a lot of time passes between Episode 6 and Episode 7, and that's where this show is supposed to live in. And you would think that, the Jedi didn't just totally vanish in that time from public record, right? I think the X factor here is that this is, when you hear she says like there's tales of Mandalore interacting with, I think they call them like space wizards or some sorcerers. They don't actually say the word. Yeah, which I guess goes to show how little they actually know about the Jedi. But the Mandalorians are this very reserved people, right? There's this whole subculture that's totally removed from the rest of the galaxy, it seems like. I mean, in Season 1, they kind of dive into that a little bit, where there's this whole colony of them living beneath the streets of that town where a lot of things take place, right? I'm guessing that there's just a lot of things that they simply don't know much about. And the Jedi is one of those things. I mean, Boba Fett, of course, had some interaction with Jedi, having been essentially killed by Luke Skywalker. Spoiler alert, I guess. And the same goes for Jango Fett, who was killed by Mace Windu. But I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is that the Mandalorians are sheltered in a certain way, and I think that way extends to not knowing who the Jedi are. That's my thesis, I guess, on it. But Techtic, you said you wanted to expand more on this?
Yeah, so the fact that they just referred to them as sorcerers, absolutely, I love that, because it puts this we all know what Jedis are. We all know what they're capable of. But within the story arc, it puts this mysterious black box over them from Mando's point of view. And I love that because now he knows it's this group that they had opposition with, that he has no idea what they're capable. All he knows is that they're, quote, sorcerers. And so there's going to be this growth and development of him coming to realize what they can do, what they're, what the people who are on the dark side, on the light side, kind of where they stand and what they're capable of. And we get to enjoy that all over again. And that for me was something that I was really excited about, because when we had first heard that there was going to be Jedis in this series, we all had the same reaction with, oh man, it's going to be the same shtick where big powerful Jedi comes in, saves the day. Well, by doing it this way, in my opinion, it kind of stretches it out and lets us relive that what is a Jedi experience, and that excites me. I think they're doing it the right way. And
the important aspect of it, I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think the important aspect of it is that we, the audience, we're kind of in on it, right? Like Mando doesn't know, and presumably Mando is going to approach all of this with some kind of enmity, or at least frostiness of like, okay, you're not supposed to trust these quote unquote sorcerers. We know what the Jedi are capable of, which I guess is both good and bad. But like season 1 kind of made hay with that idea, right? By introducing Mando to this Baby Yoda, who, we look at Baby Yoda and we say, oh, it's Baby Yoda. And like, when Baby Yoda uses the Force for the first time, we're not surprised because he's the same species as Yoda. We kind of expect that, but it shocks him and it shocks everyone. I mean, no one knows who Baby Yoda is in this universe, but we all know. And it makes it pleasant to watch in a certain way. And I think that's kind of the same approach they're taking with, oh, who are these sorcerers? And we're like, oh, we know, they're Jedi. You'll learn about them and we'll watch you learn about them. And I think that's really cool. But one of my concerns is, I think they're called, do you remember are they called the whistling birds? The thing on the wrist thing he's got?
I want to say yes, but it might just be recency bias because you just said it. So now I'm like, yeah, that sounds right.
The things, they're whistling birds. I'm concerned about that becoming when they first make them, right? When they make them in season 1, if I remember correctly, she's like, you only got a few of these. You gotta make them count. And the first time he uses them, when he's essentially saving Baby Yoda and killing all the stormtroopers, it's incredible, right? It's such a cool moment. And you're like, wow, the whistling birds are legit. They're basically auto kills for like a whole room worth of guys. If they just continue to use that at will to get him out of sticky situations, it's going to get old. So like, it was a cool moment in this trailer. I loved the way they did that when they cut to black and you hear him killing all these people. I thought that was cool. And of course the joke where Baby Yoda shuts up his little papoose thing or whatever was also funny. But I have concerns about that. That's like my one reservation, is I don't want them to turn that into a constant escape hatch.
I don't think he used the whistling birds in that scene. I think he used the environment. I really do. That's what I think. The cutting to black is actually what happened in that fight.
I don't know if he used all of them,
whistled.
but he definitely used some of them. I don't know if he exhausted his reserve, but he definitely used some.
Well, or they might want you to. Might have put the sound in. They want you to think that, but maybe Techtic's right. Maybe that's totally
could be something like, I'm over here. No, I'm not. Pow.
Potentially. Yeah.
My other impression from this trailer was how much they seem to be opening up the world to, because season 1, I think we really only saw Mando on 2 planets, correct?
It'd be 3.
3 planets?
3 planets and a space station, I think, to be exact.
But like the fact that we just see so many different environments, so many different spaceships, I think, wasn't there even a boat in this trailer?
4 planets. Sorry, I'm counting in my head. But yes, okay. I did want to talk about space boats. Space boats.
It just looks like they're going to be opening up this universe where before not that it felt very like Mando's contained world, but it felt like a very small chunk of the vast universe that exists in Star Wars. So I'm kind of excited to see how they just kind of approach the whole idea that the galaxy is so big, especially since you have to think about how they have to find the Jedi, obviously. So they're going to be exploring a lot more, and they won't be these kind of self-contained worlds that they'll be going to. So that could either go really well or really poorly, depending on how they pull it off. But I, for one, am kind of excited to see what they do with that, because especially if they do like this single episode type adventure with the underarching storyline kind of connecting them all, I think that could be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big great things about Star Wars, right, is it's this expansive universe that by definition, I mean, there's been so many medias, things done about Star Wars, right? You have all these movies, you have TV shows, you have a boatload of books, you have video games, everything. But this galaxy can be as large as you want it to be, essentially. You can make a new planet whenever you want and just say, this planet's in the Outer Rim and we're going there. And in a sense, that's a little frustrating, right? Because it can always get bigger. You can never really hem anything in. But at the same time, it's just this ultimate crucible for like imagination, right? And they can do so much. And I have to admit that like watching this trailer and like it's funny, but like seeing this space boat, I was like, that's cool. That's a very simple thing that they were like, what has not been seen in the Star Wars universe that can be interesting? And someone somewhere was like a space boat. And like part of me also, part of this was influenced by reading YouTube comments, which you should never do, by the way. Never do that. I did it anyways. And like a lot of people were like, oh man, if only, Jon Favreau and company had worked on the sequel trilogy. And I thought about that for a minute and I was like, yeah, like Mando's only had one season. But season 2 looks good, and like after 2 seasons, I would definitely, if they were season 2 is good, I'd be like, they should have done the sequel trilogy. Because the sequel trilogy, to me, the more I think about, every time I think about the sequel trilogy, I'm like, that didn't work out. Like it didn't, and it seems like
I
they
have
have
to
a clear
blame that
vision
a little
for this
bit
show.
though on the fact that it was such a disjointed effort. Like you can't have multiple directors for a trilogy and expect there to be a cohesive story, especially when it's publicly known that some of the directors are undoing what the other directors did. So like it was destined to kind of be a shit show.
Well, so counterpoint. First of all, I agree with you, but to provide a discussive counterpoint, the first 3 Star Wars movies, episode 4, 5, and 6, I believe were all directed by different people. Granted, they were all under the essentially constant surveillance of George Lucas. I think that's what the difference factor is. But
yeah, they still had, even though they were different directors, they still had a storyline that they were following. For them, right. Like they made a lot of changes as they went, but ultimately there was one guy who had envisioned the story, and he was kind of driving the bus.
It's group projects 101. You got to have one voice.
Right. Exactly. And it looks like The Mandalorian, granted, they have a revolving door of directors, but they have one essentially showrunner, and that's Jon Favreau, right? And I'm sure he's working in conjunction with other people, but it's going very well. And this is coming October 30th. I'm super excited for it. I'll watch it as quickly as they'll allow me. That's the other thing that I wanted to mention. Last year, if I remember correctly, were they doing an episode a week? And
yes,
that was
they were.
It was excruciating, and they're going to do it again, I have to imagine. And yeah, that I will say that's going to be hard. But other than that, I'm really excited for this. I believe the season is 8 episodes. Drops October 30th. So again, like last year, it's going to take us right through to Christmas, essentially.
Dude, I'm so excited, though. I think on Twitter, I was talking to one of our listeners or somebody, and basically we were talking about how we don't really boot up Disney Plus all that often anymore. And
no,
Mandalorian is the reason why I come back. Like, that is something that I will continue to boot up and subscribe to Disney Plus. Granted, we're using a free Verizon trial thing for a year, so I guess that doesn't really count. Right. But it's driving the bus, and it really is getting me back in that Disney Plus door. Because basically, until Mulan came out, I can't tell you the last thing that we watched on Disney Plus.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because I have to believe that Disney. Listen, everything Disney does is coldly calculated, right? You can call them this magical company. No, everything they do is calculated for dollars and cents. And guess when our because we're on the same free trial. Guess when that started? Guess when the year is up? It's like November 7th or something. God. So we're going to have to, obviously, we're going to have to like re-up it. But like, I'm guessing that's like part of the design, right? Is they're like, okay, it's been a year. People have free year trials through such and such. We got to hook them. And this will be a way it's going to work. I'll say right now, it's going to work on me, at least for 3 months or however long it takes me to watch Mandalorian. Because yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I haven't even watched Mulan yet. And like, I don't know. I guess especially around when we first got it, I was using it a decent amount for the Marvel movies. But like, aside from that, in this household, it does not get used very often at all.
It's just once you go through, and there's only so many times you can revisit all of the old Disney movies, and there's not enough new content on there to keep me coming back. I think we recently watched Magic Camp, and this is like a what are you up to, I guess, worthy thing, but it ties into Disney Plus. And like it was okay, but like we kind of happened upon it because we had watched Mulan, and it was like, oh, watch this next, and we're like, oh, okay. So, right. But like there's not enough new content except for The Mandalorian, which is the one thing I guess that will keep me coming back.
There's not enough enticing new content. Yeah, like it's tough. Like whenever Captain America and the Winter Soldier comes out, or whatever it's called, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, whenever that comes out,
Oh yeah, when
I'll
the
be into
Marvel
that.
stuff comes back.
Like when that comes, it's going to be great, but that's been assumedly pushed back because of COVID. And like at this point, we're kind of just like sitting here like, okay, like we've done the nostalgia thing. We're done with that. Give us something. And The Mandalorian hopefully will be a start of them doing that more and more. But like we said, October 30th, season 2, 8-episode order, I think. Baby Yoda. Everyone loves Baby Yoda. So,
dude, I'm so
be on the
excited.
lookout
I
for that.
already used the GIF with Baby Yoda closing his cradle today multiple times. I'm so pumped for more Baby Yoda GIFs because that is like when the first season came out. That is my primary way of communicating with people. It's
was
just
an
through Baby
onslaught.
Yoda GIFs. It really was.
I can absolutely confirm this. I would ask Nerdbomber a question. Didn't matter what the question was. I would get back either a Baby Yoda looking happy holding a cup of tea or a Baby Yoda, I guess, looking like nonplussed. I don't know. But she did communicate fully and in Baby Yoda GIFs, and I'm looking forward to that happening again. So again, October 30th, season 2. Get hyped. The hype is real. Right now, we're gonna save the Ubisoft stuff for after the break, and we're gonna talk a little bit about Venus right now. Specifically, we're gonna talk about phosphine. I think it's phosphine gas. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correct. Any scientists out there? It's either phosphine or phosphine. Here's what happened. Astronomers announced on Monday of this week that
It's phosphine.
the atmosphere of Venus. It's phosphine, thank you. The acidic atmosphere of Venus was found to contain phosphine molecules, which, according to an article from CBS News, are primarily a result of human industry or the actions of microbes that thrive in oxygen-free environments. So, of course, when people hear this, the first conclusion they jump to is aliens. Or I shouldn't say aliens, but like life on Venus, I guess, is what I'll say. Venus, of course, being one of the closest planets to us, one that's similar in size, similarly close, around as close to the sun as we are. So I think for a while, people have been like, oh, why can't we just go to Venus? And you've seen sci-fi movies where people go to Venus, and yeah, Venus is involved.
I was just going to say that sci-fi has been calling Venus having secret life for so long.
Right. Creators everywhere are absolutely vindicated right now. I mean, astronomers, of course, are quick to say, like, no, we're not saying life, but at this point, it's out of their hands. Everyone else is saying life. So I figured we could talk for a few minutes about potential for life on Venus. I mean, this is interesting because whenever I hear stuff like this, we've heard stuff like this before, right? Oh, they found a planet, and granted, most of the time it's like, we found a planet in 16 galaxies, away from ours, where we found a molecule that's like, suggests life. First of all, that's different than life. Second of all, how do you see a molecule? How do they see phosphine molecules on a planet? How do you see a molecule that far away?
I thought they measure the wavelength of different gases and say, okay, this has the potential for life.
Right.
And it's more of a theory than it is a, hey, we found it.
Yeah, I think so. From the article that I read, and this is not my area of expertise, but from what I read, apparently the atmosphere always has a certain amount because of volcanoes or whatever on Venus. I'm assuming there's volcanoes because this article said there was volcanoes.
There's got to be.
So apparently they found a higher level than what could be justified by volcanoes, and they're thinking, and it's not 100% that they think that it's going to be organic matter or organic life creating that, but that's one of their leading theories.
So I want to ask another very trivial question. When you think of Venus, just close your eyes for a second. Picture Venus.
I have to be honest, though, I don't really think of Venus.
You don't think of Venus. Well, that's a you problem, but you know what Venus is if you went to elementary school.
Yeah.
What
My very
color is it?
educated mother once told me to eat 9
Green.
pies. That's not the same,
When I
but
think of Venus, I picture green.
no, it's yellow, right?
So, okay, it's actually white. I just Googled what color is Venus because I saw a picture in this article. For whatever reason, I don't know why this is. This must be some childhood thing that happened to me. I've always thought of Venus as being purple. Like ever since, like a light purple. Ever since I was younger, I saw a picture in a book or something. I don't know. Child's brains are weird, but seeing this picture just now of a white Venus, I was like, no, that's not right. And I Googled it, and guess what? It's white.
The scientific mind in me knows the correct color, but the child in me, because of sci-fi, pictures a lush green landscape.
Lush. So you're, like plants?
Yes, it's what sci-fi did to me that I know is absolutely incorrect.
There's volcanoes there, according to... I mean, there probably are volcanoes there. There are volcanoes on every planet. I don't know. We're not astronomers. That's, I guess, the main point we wanted to make. But we want to hear from you about Venus. If you think there's life on Venus, tell us so. And then what do you think that life is like? Are there... I mean, I have to assume if they haven't seen anything else, molecules, other than molecules, like it's like bugs or something. Like,
Well, I think, too, And again, this is citing the same article that I don't know if it's super valid, but I guess because the surface of Venus is 900 degrees or something like that, so they don't think it's like life like we would know it, but it's some like cloud molecules living in the cloud stratosphere thing in the atmosphere of Venus. So like,
hey, like Cloud
they're probably
City,
little like, they're little bug thingies, you know, like one cell bug things that are just chilling, floating in the clouds. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Well, and you have to wonder, right? Like, as maybe less so for the case of Venus, but like more so like for those. Remember, like I said, we see planets many galaxies away from ours, and are like, oh, there could be life there. There could be a planet many galaxies away from ours that has a life much like ours. And news is breaking on that planet today. It's like, oh, we saw some smoke on this planet that's 16 galaxies away that we're calling Earth. There might be life there. And that's like all they know about life here.
I don't want to get like too deep and heady about this topic, but the thing that always blows my mind, and every time we take our telescope out or we'll have a campfire and look up at the stars, the thing that always blows my mind is when you realize that every single star you see in the sky is a sun, and that there's other planets around that sun. So that it just like, it's mind-boggling and makes you feel very small, but also the universe is incredible, folks. Space is awesome.
Well, then there's always that thing too where they're like, oh, well, that light you're seeing, it took like 200 years for that light to reach your eyeballs.
Yeah, you're looking into the past. Insanity.
Exactly. I feel like this, whenever we talk about aliens on this show, which this is not the first time, it always kind of devolves into this sort of thing where we're just like, wow, space. And like, I'm not sorry about that. I knew that was going to happen and I didn't care. I wanted to talk about it and I'm happy we did. But
it's the official stance of the Online Warriors podcast. Wow, space.
Wow. Does anyone else get depressed from space?
No.
It makes me sad. And hear me out. We'll never be able to really expand beyond our immediate solar system.
Hey, not with that attitude.
Well,
anything is possible.
Light speed, in my opinion, is impossible. The G's would kill us. So the only way to do it is to, and we've talked about this before, is to upload your consciousness, travel, and then
here we go.
Download your consciousness.
No way, dude.
You
need black holes, or you need to pull some Mass Effect stuff and get some mass relay systems going.
Right. Or Interstellar, where he goes in the black hole. Remember that? And he sees a bunch of bookshelves. Spoiler alert.
I don't think wormholes are possible. But hey, I've been proven wrong.
You don't know. Right.
Well, that's the incredible thing about space. We literally do not know. Like, anything could be out there. There could be like a giant puppy floating around in space that it could be out there. No one can tell me it's not out there.
Like the Galactus of canines?
Yeah, it could be out there.
Right.
You don't know that.
And
I hope he's not a world eater.
How can a giant space puppy possibly be depressing? I think is the point that Nerdbomber
because he would need to eat food. And so if we
the
find
puppy
him,
would?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe he's eating the space garbage that we put into the universe.
I'm not worried about the space puppy. If the space puppy is in space, he knows what he's doing, and he's got a reason for being there. That's my theory. But we want to hear your theories. Again, I started a call to action on social media. I never finished it. I'm going to finish it now. At OW Illeagle86, at OW Nerdbomber, at OW Techtic, and our main show account, at Online Warriors 1. We want to hear your theories about Venus, and I guess about life beyond the Earth in general. Do you think that there's a giant space puppy? Do you think there's a giant space kitten? Do you think there's a giant space sea monkey? I don't even still know what sea monkeys are, basically.
Ooh, sea monkey is
tell me that also.
I had these as a kid. Before we go to the break, I'm going to educate you really quickly on sea monkeys. They're brine shrimp. That's it. That's all they are.
But I don't even really know what that means. Brine shrimp?
Tiny, yeah, they're just teeny tiny shrimp. And for whatever reason, everyone as kids thought it was super cool to have a bunch of teeny tiny shrimp. There was a sea monkey watch. And so it had a bubble over the time, and you could take it because you could suck they're small enough where you can suck them up in like a stopper type thing. So, or a pipette, as they call them in science class. So I would you would pick your sea monkey for the day, and I had my favorite. He was Joe the sea monkey, and I would take him to school with me in my watch. He'd float around, would have a good time, probably would get very jumbled when I would run around on the playground. The watch was probably a terrible idea.
Yeah, sounds like sadistic. Poor Joe.
I was like 6. I didn't design it, man.
Right, grief.
But he lived, or my parents told me he lived, and maybe they threw him out. But every day I picked Joe back out of his tank and I took him to school.
That's a classic. Yeah, but if they're small enough to suck up into a pipette, like, how would you know which one was Joe? Like, this story's collapsing under its own weight.
I was 6 years old. all of them were probably
it wasn't
really
Joe.
she was systematically killing and torturing them and then just squirting them back in the tank.
Your parents would come into your room every night, take your watch off your wrist, take out the dead sea monkey, put it in the garbage, and the next morning you would get a new sea monkey. This is horrible. I hate this story. I was so uplifted by space. Good grief.
I was basically the girl in Finding Nemo.
That's just horrible. Okay, well, I guess we're going to go to break now on that note. But before we do, some positive stuff. We want to shout out our Patreon producer, Mr. Ben Shackness. Ben probably never killed sea monkeys when he was a child. Hopefully not, Ben. Correct me if I'm wrong, I guess. But he does support us on Patreon. He is one of our Night subscribers, and as a result he gets this producer shout out, he gets input into our weekly game segment, and of course he gets access to our monthly secret segment and vlog, and he also gets the occasional guest spot on the show, which he has done a few times now. We've enjoyed it every time. So first of all, thanks to Ben. Second of all, you can be like Ben if you want to get involved in giving back to the show. We love doing this. Any little bit helps. You can go over to patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast for more of the details. You can become a knight like Ben. You could become a squire, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, or you could become a page, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So again, the details on that are at patreon.com/onlinewarriorspodcast. Be kind to sea monkeys, and we'll be right back.
Do you want to know things about video games? How about consumer-oriented reviews, honest opinions, hot takes, and predictions? Well, you're listening to the right ad. Introducing the Lit Gaming Arena Podcast, Season 2. We bring you 2 episodes every week. Terminal News, which focuses on all the latest gaming news you'll ever need. And the LGA Cast, where we talk about all the games we're playing in the gaming industry in general, and we do not hold back any punches. We also have the occasional wacky guest, so don't miss out. Subscribe to us today. You can find us on our website, lga.gg, and on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or whatever podcast app you use. Again, that's the Lit Gaming Arena Podcast at lga.gg.
Okay, we're back to talk about Ubisoft Forward, which was a showcase of Ubisoft's that I think took place recently. I guess that's the most important thing. There were a number of trailers revealed. We're going to talk about a few of them here. I guess we should start with Prince of Persia. And I'm going to start with a disclaimer, as I often do for topics like these. I never played Prince of Persia. I know they made a Jake Gyllenhaal movie at one point, but I never played the game. I know a lot of people love it very much.
I loved it.
And it looks cool. I mean, I don't know how to approach this because like I feel like the term remake is being used very specifically. Like it's not a remaster. Is the vibe that I'm getting from it. It's like a different thing. Like you wouldn't call Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man a remaster of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. Am I understanding this correctly? I don't have any experience with the franchise.
So let me start by saying, if you're not familiar with the franchise, it's basically my cup of tea. You can fast forward and reverse and pause time to solve basically puzzles to get through and progress in the game, as well as giving you a combat advantage. So very, very fun game. And as he progresses throughout all of the different games, new powers, different looks, awesome game. I loved it. I even had it for my PSP, not just my PlayStation.
Whoa.
Yeah. So the one thing I want to say about it is that I'm excited that it's coming back. However, I'm a little disappointed by the graphics. They are slightly improved, but it still looks like I'm playing it on like a 360 none of this, awesome leveraging of new technologies or anything like that. And frankly, I wanted to see hyper realistic characters.
And this was originally PS2 generation. Yes.
Yeah. Well.
Okay.
Like I said, PlayStation, it was on multiple consoles at the time.
Right. But that generation, the PS2, GameCube, Xbox. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much of a point of reference, but I will go on a limb and say that for all of the games we're going to talk about, Watch Dogs Legion and Immortal's Phoenix Rising, I was not like blown away. I suppose Watch Dogs would be the closest that I came to being blown away, but
you've already been blown away. It's like not a new blown away.
Yeah, the quality of that. I think we'll talk about Watch Dogs Legion in a bit, but the thing with Watch Dogs Legion was it wasn't supposed to be about the graphics. It was supposed to be about what they're doing with the gameplay. But nowhere was I like, wow, these graphics are
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like, it wasn't like watching a PS5 or an Xbox showcase where I was like, oh my God, like this is next level stuff.
I would definitely third that because, and I understand that these are games for this current generation, or at least Prince of Persia is coming out in time for the current generation. But we're so far deep, and like there's so many games that just look beautiful on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 that there kind of was no excuse. And I'm very excited about Prince of Persia. I think it'll be really exciting to get a chance to go back and play this again. And I'm interested to see what kind of changes or tweaks they might have made to it and what kind of improvements. But yeah, I would say the graphics were a little bit disappointing. And I'm sure people will be very upset because I know a lot of people are waiting for a Prince of Persia remake or remaster. But I feel like Ubisoft has the power and the money to make it look a lot better than we got. And maybe, who knows? Yeah. There's still a little bit of time. Maybe it's going to come out and it'll look a lot better. But from this trailer, it just didn't blow me away.
And there's definitely like, I mean, Techtic, you said it looks like you're playing it on a 360. And to that end, too, that there's certainly a difference graphically between like PS4 launch titles and like The Last of Us 2, to pull out an example that I think was particularly graphically good, or like Uncharted 4 was also very good. Like there's a gradient of graphical quality across those, but this is lower end. This is launch title. This is barely above 360, if even above 360 graphical quality. I like the sound of it, gameplay wise. I like the idea of it. I laughed during the trailer, like the part where they're like, the guy's like, stick the dagger into the sand, and he does it, and he's like, gotcha. I just thought I was like, man, that's great. And then he's just spending the whole game like trying to pick up the sand. Is that the gist of it? Am I understanding this at all?
No.
That's cool. But okay. I mean, it's time manipulation, which that seems to be a hot button game mechanic, right? Lately, I mean, we've talked about what was the game that's coming to the next gen that we talked about a week or two ago? That
Deathloop?
Gives you like 25 seconds.
Oh man.
I can't think of it now. Deathloop was another one that came to my mind, but there's a few, right?
I mean, time is an excellent concept. Another game similar to this that I was absolutely in love with back in the 360 days was a game called Time Shift. I mean,
Time Shift was great.
It's fantastic. Totally underrated. I mean, it should have done way better than it did. But these kind of games, they have a niche and they're phenomenal in my opinion. You just got to give the people what they want, and that's better graphics, Ubisoft.
Well, and there was a Quantum Break too.
Yep.
I will say topics in video games, it feels like they're very cyclical because like Techtic said, you had Time Splitters, there were a bunch of time-based games.
He didn't even mention Time Splitters, but that was another great one. Time Splitters was great.
And I feel like we kind of got away from the time manipulation for a little bit. Like we had like Quantum Break and Control, which dabbled in it. But for the most part, time manipulation kind of went away as like a fad. And now it's kind of coming back in as like a cool game mechanic. So very neat. The cyclical nature of media.
So the Prince of Persia remake, I would argue, was the headliner, or one of the headliners of this slate of trailers. But Immortal's Phoenix Rising, I mean, this one, I think we talked a while back, it was the Unreal demo, and I was like, okay, the environments look great, but the character model is kind of, it's not realistic, right? It's a little cartoony. They go a certain way with it, and this is the same thing to me. Is graphically it's fine, but they're not going for realism. They're going for what is she? A cartoon? Is she an angel? What is she? Or is she a phoenix?
She's a god.
She's got wings. She's a god. She's got wings. Spoiler alert. She's fighting like what looks like a slate of like mythical creatures.
Monsters.
Right. Gods and monsters. It looks super cool. It's one of those trailers where I don't super understand the gameplay. You know, I mean, it's very cinematic in nature, right? And a lot of these were not Watch Dogs, but a lot of these were. So there's only so much to understand. But
I mean, I thought it looked really good. I don't mind a cartoony element to my games. Like I thought the cartoony character kind of fit with the entire world. Everything seemed like it was a little bit going cartoony, almost like they were trying to mimic like a Breath of the Wild type style of game, although not so much like cel shaded-y. And so like I thought it looked really good. I thought I'm really into like mythical creatures and stuff, especially in games. Like I feel like there's a really good story there that a lot of games don't touch on anymore. I feel like fantasy and mythical elements was really big. Again, cyclical nature of games. Back in like the 90s and the early 2000s, I felt like we got a lot of that stuff and we really haven't in a while. So I'm really excited to kind of dig back into those mythical god monster battles.
Yeah, I agree with Nerdbomber. I think the graphics fit the whole style of the game. I thought that looked phenomenal. And on top of that, I really liked that it was realistic armor for a female character. So way to go.
Yeah, I will give you that. Usually, like, I have no problem dress the way you want to dress. I'm not one of those people who care what you put on yourself. But the one thing in video games I've always kind of found it funny is when they're like in the deep jungle and they barely have any clothes on. And I'm like, oh, you would get malaria so bad right now.
Like Lara Croft situation. Well, old school Lara Croft, new school Lara Croft has clothes on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're touching, I think this one might just not be my style, but it sounds like it's your guys' style. So
it's one of those games. I don't know if I would go out and buy it launch day, but if it's something that pops up on sale or shows up on Game Pass, I'll probably give it a shot.
Now, I think Watch Dogs Legion is my style. And granted, I didn't play Watch Dogs, the first Watch Dogs. I didn't play Watch Dogs 2. I think I actually own Watch Dogs. The first one, I haven't played it. But this is pushing the boundaries. I mean, when you look at Watch Dogs, you're like, okay, it's Grand Theft Auto with hacking. To me, the broad strokes of it. But this is what they're describing in their extended look at this, because this game's been in development for a while. We've talked about Watch Dogs Legion before, but they're really showing off, the idea that you can quote unquote hack anyone, and you can just find a character in the city who has certain attributes, and they become your playable character. Like, the possibilities are extremely endless. It's such a cool idea. I question the execution a little bit, but the idea is enough, I think, to, first of all, set it apart from its contemporaries, and second of all, make it worth playing.
For me, I said this before, this is definitely a game that I'm going to be buying probably right when it comes out.
Launch. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of continuity is required. Probably not much. I mean, it looks like this is in London. I certainly don't think the other games were, but it's such a cool concept. And like, I played Crackdown. Like, I don't do Grand Theft Auto games very much, but Crackdown I had a lot of fun with. So if this is anything like that, I'll probably have a good time. And if the quote unquote customization that you can get from, getting people to join your team, looks like you can basically meet someone and they're like, do this thing for me, and then they become part of your team. It's kind of like a side quest that gives you the goal, or gives you the reward of, here's this person that you can then play as. I love it. I love that idea. And they basically gave in this trailer a few examples of, like, you can have this it was so strange. Like, they were like, here's this cool getaway car driver guy, and here's this ultra hacker lady, and then they're like, and here's a beekeeper. I was like, what? Like,
with
it took a left turn.
Bees, not your run-of-the-mill
with electronic bees. And then they were like, oh, and also there's this Banksy, like, graphic artist that you can, like, shoot a paintball. I was like they're going.
I enjoy how some of the characters have flaws too. Like, hey, this is an assassin, but he has hiccups.
He has the hiccups. Yeah,
I mean, that truly makes this, each character kind of unique and not generic assassin. Generic hacker.
And it's very. It's in keeping with when the trailer starts. Before they've talked about all that stuff, there's a very, like, tonally, like, tongue-in-cheek thing happening, right? Where they're like, they don't want to be taken seriously. They're like, this is a goofy thing, and at the end of the day, something they've been touting the entire time is, like, you can play as a grandma. And they show in this trailer, like, oh, you can be this guy, but he has a hard time moving around. And he's like an old man, like, wearing a gas mask or something. Like, it's going to be kind of ridiculous, but I think embracing that is better than not embracing. I mean, in a city full of people where you can be anyone, you're bound to find someone with, like, rheumatoid arthritis, right? Like, in a sense, that's realistic. And then you can be like, you can give yourself a challenge. You'd be like, I'm going to be the rheumatoid arthritis guy and, like, see if I can do this mission.
And, like, the more that I'm seeing of it, so that was my biggest concern, actually. The last few times that we've seen stuff from this game, I was like, okay, well, they showed us, like, a couple characters that you can be, and they have unique capabilities and skills. But, like, how in depth can they really go here? Like, is every character really going to be that unique? And granted, we're still only seeing, like, another 3 or 4 characters in this video, but they seem to be going all out. Like you guys are saying,
right.
They're all very unique. The beekeeper one was the one that kind of blew me away the most, because I was like, I did not see that one coming at all. And, like, it is a variation on drones, but it's a cool variation. So I am actually really excited. I mean, I've been excited about this game, and I think this just kind of sealed it. Like, I'll be kind of disappointed if, yes, over the last 6 months or however long they've been pumping out these little previews, we've been seeing, like, groups of 3 or 4 different characters that you can be in those skills. And, like, if that ends up kind of being the cap for what you can do, I'll be disappointed. But I'm really hopeful and positive that I'm hoping they actually fleshed out this world and that all of the characters are as unique as they're making them seem.
I'm hoping for a gambit of medical issues.
Right. Rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, just name it. Something that would debilitate you.
Spells.
Irritable bowel syndrome.
Ooh, yeah.
That'd be a good one.
Tourette's could be interesting.
This is what I'm thinking. Like, this is what I mean when I said I question the execution. Is like the amount of sheer possibilities is just so much. Like, I can't believe that they would be able to do it effectively enough where you could literally walk up to anyone on the street and they're like, "Hi, I have
big fan of the IBS.
A really bad head cold." Yeah, IBS. Let's stick with the one that worked. I have really bad IBS, but I need help, and if you help me, I'll help you beat the hackers. Like, it's the possibilities are endless. Have you guys played Watch Dogs? Either of you?
Yep. I got the same vibe as you. Basically, Grand Theft Auto with hacking.
Okay. That's what it looks like.
I have Watch Dogs 2, and I've just never played it, but I heard it was actually a lot better than Watch Dogs 1. But when like you play the first installment in a game and then you're kind of shy when the sequel comes out because like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like sequel worthy. Yeah. Right.
Well, hopefully it's sequel worthy enough for a third installment called Watch Dogs Legion, which is coming TBD. I don't know if they gave a release date for this one. I didn't see any release dates in any of this stuff.
I believe this is coming in October, but I could be wrong.
So I want to ask you guys a question.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
How do you riders feel? Because that's one that I was actually really excited for that I haven't seen yet.
Sorry, Watch Dogs Legion is coming out October 29th, 2020.
What was the question you asked? Oh, riders. Are you talking about riders?
How do you riders feel? RIDERS.
I mean, I thought the game looked cool. I've been burned by other games in the past. Like, I don't know if I'd have the attention span for a game like that to play it for a lengthy amount of time, but it looked cool.
For me, it looked like a combination of Dirt meets SSX meets Fall Guys. Because like the absolute chaos of all of the people running around in their own custom costumes. And I'm kind of here for it. I agree with you, Nerdbomber, that its playability and longevity does seem questionable. But from a initial look of what they're touting that this game is going to include, it looks really, really good.
Yeah, so
if I'm going to be playing any game that surrounds quote unquote extreme sport or like snowboard, but I'm going to buy the new Tony Hawk. Like, I mean that's a narrow-minded view, but like I have not played a snowboarding game or a motocross game, whatever you want to call it, since 1080 Snowboarding, back for the N64. It's a fantastic game. Shout out to 1080 Snowboarding, but not my genre, I guess, is what I'll say.
I mean, I think the aspect of the fact that it's like a massively multiplayer game is kind of cool, but yeah, I don't know if Riders Republic is my jam. Like, I'll probably give it a try if we have it or if it's on Game Pass or something like that. But yeah, I'm not going to seek it out.
Well, there you have it. It won't be sought out. We want to hear what you had to think. You have to say about the Ubisoft Forward event. Hit us up again on Twitter sphere. Our handles OWLeagle86, OW Techtic, OW Nerdbomber, and of course our main show account Online Warriors 1. Hit us up. Right now, it's time for What Are You Up To Wednesday, which we should like make a jingle or something for it. I feel like I just say it's time for What Are You Up To Wednesday, and then we launch into updates, but we're going to do that again here.
What are you up to Wednesday?
All right, now you have to do that every single episode. You should not have signed up for that. We'll start with Techtic. Techtic, how's your week been, man?
The biggest thing that I want to talk about is we watched a couple movies this weekend. The American Pickle and...
the Seth Rogen thing.
Yes, the Seth Rogen. It looks really, really funny from the trailer, but I have to say, it's kind of a movie about nothing. And the whole gimmick that it's around is really done and over with within the first 10 minutes of the movie. And I have to say, I'm kind of disappointed with it because I've seen some really good movies directed by Seth Rogen that I loved. And this one just, it fell short.
So like, I can chime in a little bit. I do understand how this one was straight to HBO Max and didn't go in a movie theater because the premise is that Seth Rogen's great-grandfather, who looks identical to him, gets pickled in brine for 100 years or so and then is discovered one day and has to adapt to modern life. But it really, like, that's a funny concept. It seems like it should be funny. And then it just evolved into a kind of like battle between them and a very introspective look at religion and family, which is fine. but it's not what I signed up for based on the trailer. So
with the Seth Rogen movie.
Yeah, I thought it would be funny, and it ended up being kind of a downer, honestly, in my opinion. Like I didn't laugh a lot, and I was at the end of it, I was just like, this was fine.
And if there's one thing we all need during the pandemic, it's a good downer. So thanks for the warning.
Sorry, Techtic, you can continue.
Yeah,
I jumped in there.
So the other movie we watched was, we finally got around to watching Birds of Prey, and it didn't really get received well in the box office, but honestly, I thought it was a pretty good movie. I'm a little disappointed about the characters that they picked from a comic perspective. Cassandra Cain was in this movie. I'm not going to really say what her role was, but basically she was just a pickpocketer in the show and in the movie, and in the comics, she's much more badass than just a straight up pickpocketer. Could even be a Batgirl type badass, assassin level skills. And she was weak. So there was some potential there. And the other thing that had potential that fell short for it was the villain. So the villain in this movie was Black Mask, and he was just kind of goofy. In the comics, he's this basically the rich bad guy version of Batman. I guess, well, the only reason is he's like Batman is because he's rich, but he has this like really dark backstory where he like kills his family, and this, it was just like, I failed my dad, and that was it.
And it's Ewan McGregor, right?
Yeah.
I would almost argue like he was the bad guy, but I think Victor Zsasz played a bigger role and was more of a direct villain throughout the movie. Like, yeah, he was like, Black Mask was in it, but he really wasn't the primary bad guy, in my opinion. I think Victor Zsasz was his henchman and kind of like carried out all of the bad stuff and had his own little story beats going on. I thought the movie was good, though. I thought it was different than what I expected from a superhero movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought the focus on Harley Quinn just being kind of goofy was funny. I thought it was just a fun movie. Very colorful, too. I really like the colorfulness of the whole thing.
It was good, but I think they could have done better, is all I'm saying. Those two characters have very strong backgrounds, and they just left them at the door.
Are we in sequel territory?
No, I don't really think so.
I think they set it up where there probably could be a sequel, but I don't know if we'll get one. And I think Harley Quinn, isn't she supposed to have her own spin-off movie at some point?
Yeah, that sounds right.
So
I had honestly forgotten about Birds of Prey. I know we talked about it on the show when the trailer came out, but I never went and saw the movie.
Well, it's on HBO Max.
So all in all, I'd watch it. I wouldn't watch The Great American Pickle.
Okay, duly noted. Thanks for the update, Techtic. Nerdbomber, what do you have?
So I broke my toe, so I have been laying low. And
that's cool.
For the most part, just playing games and watching things. So first off, I want to say that we started watching The Boys. Season 2 came out, and we actually started watching it last week, but we caught up with the 4th episode, which just came out, and they're drip feeding it, kind of like The Mandalorian does, where every week there's a new episode. And I'm really enjoying it. It's currently getting review bombed on Amazon because people don't like that it's getting drip feeded and not dropped all at once. But it is what it is. I still think it's a really good show. Obviously, the fact that I can't wait for the next week to come means that I'm enjoying it a lot. I think they are diving into the characters a little bit more and exploring the characters. And I think there's a lot of fallout still from last season that they're really digging into at the beginning of the season. And it's really good so far. Still the dark and grim show that if you watch the first season, basically it's going to be the same type of tone, except maybe a little bit amped up.
See, I'm a big Carl Urban guy. That's the main draw for me. Love Carl Urban.
Mm-hmm. Have you watched The Boys?
No, never have.
You're going to need to do that, man. It's super good. It's like really, really graphic and grim, but like really good.
Amazon, it's one of those things where I probably would have been more predisposed to do it if my Fire Stick didn't just absolutely bombard me with ads for it. I've seen a million The Boys ads just by being on my Fire Stick.
But that's a terrible reason to not watch the show because it's super good.
It's a fine reason to not watch the show because I feel like I've already seen it 100,000 times. Well, their advertising isn't working. Amazon, you heard it here first. Stop giving me boys advertisements.
The other thing that I do want to say that I've been doing, other than the fact that we finally finished Battletoads and we got through a lot of those co-op missions that were very hard with 2 players. I'd say there's like the space game, the like mini game things that was very difficult because you have one person controlling the ship and the other person controlling the weapons, and that's just very hard to like coordinate between the two of you, especially since there's so much stuff coming at you. So it was super fun. I enjoyed it. I was glad that we were done and we beat it though, because there were some levels that were like pulling out your hair. But primarily, I have been playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. My pre-order.
Oh, damn, you got it?
Well, I pre-ordered it and then it didn't come for like a week. So all weekend we were playing it and it is really good.
Is it amazing?
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. The soundtrack is on point. Like there's enough old songs from the original games mixed in with some new songs, so it's like kind of a fresh soundtrack. Everything is kind of like faithfully recreated from the original games. I will say though, I remember being better at the game when I was a kid, and probably because I just played it all the time, and I used to be able to rack up like 100,000 combos without batting an eye, and now I can barely do a trick without falling. But I'm slowly improving and I'm getting there and riding around finding skate. But yeah, it's super fun. I am very impressed with how they pulled this off, because I know Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5 was a disaster. So I was kind of like on edge. I was like, I don't know, like a lot of the preview stuff that we had saw for the game looked good, but I wasn't like fully sold on it. And man, it's probably one of the most near perfect remaster / remakes that I've ever played. So if you're on the fence, you should buy it.
Few games capture my grip with such veracity where I become unreasonably clammy while playing it, and this game meets those requirements.
Yeah, it's fun because like it's split screen. They have split screen like the original games did, and it's just so much fun to go back and do like trick attack and horse and stuff like that. I love it.
I was never any good. Oh gosh. I was never any good at Tony Hawk. So like that, like you're saying you remember being good. No, I was never any good at it. I loved it. I still love it. I'm going to love that when I buy it. I'm sure I'm going to buy it. I saw a little bit of the gameplay. I know Jack Black has a cameo in the game, and I know too that he worked with the developers on it, so he played it on his YouTube channel. Shout out to Jablinski Games. It's a fantastic YouTube channel where he plays video games. And it looked great. It looked like the old school Tony Hawk's, which is, I think, what most people are looking for. So I'll definitely have to hop in on that.
It played like it. It literally felt like coming back home, which sounds really like overblown and dramatic, but like it really did feel like I was a kid again playing this game in my living room with my brother and sister, and it was awesome.
Hey, Ubisoft, that's how you remake a game.
Truly. Yeah, there you go, Ubisoft. Take that. On my end, only really 2 things to update on. This past weekend, endeavored to do one of the few outdoor activities that is generally deemed okay under social distancing. Correct me if I'm wrong. My girlfriend and I went camping for one night and then got rained out before we could spend the second night.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, cooked some s'mores, did some hiking, all that good stuff. Played some long games.
Did you take the pooch?
We did not take the pooch. The pooch, listen, the pooch isn't cut out for that life. Fun fact, while we were recording this episode, my girlfriend messaged me and said that my pooch pooped in the bathroom. So I'm going to be dealing with that after we're done recording. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. So I went camping, but the other main, the meat of my update this week, started a new show, incidentally on HBO, Lovecraft Country, guys. It's pretty good. We're only 2 episodes in. We started yesterday, but it's a very interesting mix. It's kind of like Castle Rock. If our listeners ever watch that show, it's Castle Rock is very focused on Stephen King's work. This is of course focused a lot on H.P. Lovecraft's work, but it's also it takes place in the 50s, and it's a lot about racial tensions during that time. It's a predominantly black cast who are interacting with kind of a white-driven world, which of course has never been more timely. But it's an interesting and eclectic mix of those 2 things. But it really, so far 2 episodes in, it really works. So I would definitely recommend that to anyone who's into kind of spooky. It's kind of like pulpy horror stuff mixed with drama. I'm into it so far. We'll update. And then I also finished Burnout Paradise, but don't really need to talk about that much. Other than that, it was a good experience.
I do have to ask, do you have a new game lined up?
Everspace is currently on the docket, if only because I got that. Boy, that would have been for my birthday, which was in May. So I'm overdue on that. Other games have kind of slid in front of it, but going to be doing that for a while. I'm really excited about that too. Looking to get back into ship combat after the Starlink Battle for Atlas debacle where I lost like a bunch of hours of gameplay. Not to open that wound. So let's move on now to the quiz, which I believe is helmed by Techtic. I just know it's not me because I can never win these things. But maybe this week is my week. We're going to do a quiz about the Atari 2600, thanks to our Patreon subscribers who suggested this one. And Techtic, I think you've got some questions lined up for us.
I do. So let's get right into it, with the first question being, when did the Atari 2600 first come out?
Who goes first on this one?
Don't care.
I'm going to go first. I'm going to give you a sporting chance, Nerdbomber. I'm going to say 1974.
Shoot. That's what I was going to say.
I feel like that's a pretty good answer.
Okay, I'm going to say 1970 because I feel like it could be either 72 or 74.
Ooh, small gap there.
So Illeagle takes it. It was unveiled it was released to the public September 11th, 1977.
Ooh, okay. So it's actually too early, but I'm on the board early. This is it, guys. I can feel it. This is my week.
You didn't like the meme we made of you?
I loved the meme, but I'm done being a meme subject. I've decided. You guys are great meme smiths.
With this early technology, how many bytes of RAM did the Atari have?
Shoot. I feel like, but we're not even talking gigabytes. We're talking bytes. I mean, that makes sense, but I don't know what number I need to say here. 100?
Okay, so a couple things. Maybe I'm about to look like a fool, but when you're talking about bytes of things, it's usually like multiples of 4, like 16, 32, 64, 128, 256. So that's my first signpost. You said 100 bytes?
Yeah, because I thought maybe it would be like, I don't know, man.
I'm going to say 100. I'm going to do some strategy here and say 128 bytes because I'm sure it's kilobytes or higher. So I'm just going to say 128 bytes and not bust. And Techtic, tell me that I've.
So your strategy was correct. 100 is impossible. And you've spot on hit it at 128 bytes.
Okay, so
wow, it wasn't kilobytes.
I wasn't that far off though. That's why I didn't know. I didn't know what the intervals were, so that's why I went with 100 because I figured it had to be like around there, but I didn't know how niche to get. Because like, what if it was 116 or something like that? I don't know.
Not even kilobytes. The 70s were whack, man.
With the limited capability of RAM at the time, it's a really interesting read what game developers had to do to allocate memory so that it doesn't bog down the game. I mean, even the Pokemon games for the Game Boy were just an absolute work of art in the strategies that they had to implement to keep it optimized. So good read for you folks listening into that stuff.
Well, I'm running away with it. I mean, I don't want to speak too soon, but it's happening, guys. I'm doing it.
How many units have been sold
of the Atari 2600? It's not that many. 500,000.
I feel like it's at least got to be in the millions because we had one growing up, and not that my family was pretty technological. Like we used to keep up with times, but like we weren't.
You guys were hipsters.
I don't know. I'm going to say 1 million at least.
Okay, so Nerdbomber takes it at 30 million units.
Oh, gosh. Okay. I was a little wide on that one. Okay, shake it off.
When first released, how much did it sell for?
I feel like it was pretty expensive. I'm trying to think back, like, man, so consoles I feel like they've almost gotten a little bit cheaper. Like, I know things are expensive now, but like technology is cheaper to produce. You get more for less. I want to say it was probably like $500.
Okay. We're talking the 70s. You could like buy a car with $500. I'm going to say $50.
You couldn't buy a car with $500, man.
It was the 70s, man.
So Nerdbomber busted. It was $199, which in today's equivalency would be the same as $839 US.
Okay, so I just suck at inflation basically, but like I was in the right headspace.
If you inflate $500, you'd have like what, like $1,600 or so around $2,000 probably.
Yeah,
you could buy a car with $2,000. Granted, it's a used car, but I'm telling you, man, the 70s were whack.
So it's impossible for you to lose now.
Wow, I'm victory lap. Let's do it.
So Pac-Man was the best-selling game How many units were sold?
Okay, so you said 30 million units of the console.
And this is like specific to the Atari.
Yes.
40 million. 40 million.
I feel like because people didn't just use the Atari for gaming. The Atari 2600, I believe, could also be used as like a personal computer of sorts. I think. I could be talking on my butt, but I'm pretty sure you could kind of use it as a personal computer. And so I feel like not everyone was buying the game, so Pac-Man was pretty popular. So I'm going to say 20 million.
So you both busted. The answer was 7 million.
Oh, wow.
Well, so you won, but I'm going to throw in a bonus
my
question
gosh.
just for funsies.
This is weird.
What Alien game for the Atari was touted as the game?
Oh,
Space Invaders.
no, E.T.
I don't even have to. Yes, it was E.T.
Oh, the
Yeah,
worst
It was
game.
touted as the
Everyone knows
worst
E.T. is
game
the
ever
worst game
for
of all time.
Atari.
I thought you
They
were
had to,
going to
like-
say like the best game. I thought I'm the one. I guess I'm an optimist now. I thought he was going to spin it like the best new game of all time, and I was like Space Invaders. But no,
E.T. They had to bury copies of it in a landfill in New Mexico because it wouldn't sell. It's like a legend. Well, listen, guys, I did it. I want to give some credit to the Netflix docu-series High Score, which, granted, I didn't get any direct answers directly from that, but I think watching that sporadically recently put me in the right headspace. So I'll be giving the quiz next week, which is going to be weird for everyone, but we'll get through it. And then I'll be back to sucking, probably. But I want to thank the Academy, and I want to thank Techtic for giving a great quiz, Nerdbomber for probably letting me win and boosting my confidence. So yeah, get hyped for next week. Quiz topic TBD. News topics TBD. Hosts.
Well, we do have one news topic. We definitely know the PlayStation 5 will be talked about.
Oh, right. One topic D, which D is for decided. Two topics TBD. Hosts D. Release time D. There's a lot of things that are D, a lot of things that are TBD. We'll see you then.
Energy.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening so much. Thank you so much for listening, whether you listen so much or you listen just a little. Thank you for listening. And if you want to head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. We would appreciate that, whether the feedback is positive or negative. We look forward to getting some news over there. But in the meantime, we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much again for listening, and go be an online warrior.
Have a great week, everybody.